Well, hello there. That's Louis' entrance, but I'm stealing everything. I'm stealing the hosting job. Welcome to Schmoedown Night in Canada. It's me, Daniel. And today I have who's this guy? I don't recognize him actually.
Well, Dan,
Leave
you
me alone. Oh,
please.
that's our producer.
It's Dave. Dave's back. He moved and he looks slightly better to the camera, except my camera thinks I'm the same color as this wall, so I might disappear from time to time. But I am excited to be back, even if it is under sad circumstances.
Which we will get into why Dave is so sad because he is the biggest Wildberries fan in the world. Maybe
Wildberries.
he might be a bigger Wildberries fan than Josh McCouga, but
I
there are
would
more
never.
there are more matches to talk about. As we get into it, we have the usual suspects in one of their last possible matches of this year because they have one team in this teams tournament and they have Jen Kemp coming in here. The Misfits were knocked out of the teams tournament before it even started. So the Dungeon's last match before Spectacular was tonight. Well, the night that we watch this, obviously. And we have Video Drew going up against Jen Kemp. Did you have a particular feeling going into this match, one way or the other?
I was really rooting for Jen Kemp. She was someone who,
Mhm.
I've done some fan league play myself, and I've been around those circles. I've never interacted with Jen Kemp, but I know people who have, and they talk very highly of her. I've seen her matches. Didn't have a great inner geekdom showing, but I knew that singles was going to suit her very well. So I was pulling for her, but I was just excited to see Video Drew back on my screen.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, I kind of felt the same way. I've been waiting for Jen Kemp's matches all year, basically, because I've seen her in the other leagues, and her play is good enough for the Schmoedown, and I knew that like she'd be a great addition to it, and it was very sad that in this particular match I had to root against her because we love Video Drew here.
Oh, we do love Video Drew, and how can you not? Especially coming off that Riley match
Mm,
from a couple like a month ago or so. It's been great getting Video Drew back into the Schmoedown and seeing these two ladies duke it out. This was a great match and a great way to start a very emotional throwdown.
I fully agree. And as we get into the actual match, this was one of my favorite Video Drew matches ever.
Oh yeah.
She that like bowl of fortune cookies she has is just I don't know where you come up with these things, but they're so delightful.
That was a moment when they first brought out the Sam's Challenge fortune cookies. That
Mhm.
really made me realize, man, Video Drew might be one of the greatest characters the Schmoedown has ever seen. And I know that's not a hot take. That's not a fresh thing no one said
Yeah.
before, but this really solidified it cuz this was outside of her just being like kooky and like asking where's Tom or calling Janine a robot. This was like some biting commentary about the players and the managers, and I loved it.
Yeah, and all of her challenges were very fun too. They work perfectly with like Kaiser's character too, because most of his like prep speeches have nothing to do with the game they're playing. Because obviously they do it before the match. They know all the decisions they're gonna make. So he just I for better terms like raps with his player for a couple of seconds, and this really played into it. It was very fun.
Yeah, and I really think that's an under. And I know we're not talking about the match much yet, but I think that's a undervalued skill that Kaiser has. I think he's been criticized a lot as a manager this year
Mhm.
because his players haven't been getting the points, and like maybe he's made some questionable calls. But who hasn't made those questionable calls? I think just being able to get in there and rap with your players and just like really center them, I think is a unbridled skill that a lot of the other managers who just come in and they recite the old trusty, you got two JTs, you got a challenge, you're doing great. It's like Kaiser's not doing that. He's doing that, but he's also bringing a level of a personable level to
Mm.
him and his players that I really appreciate, and I think it translates to his players.
Mhm. And yeah, like each manager approaches it a little differently. That reminds me a lot of how Koi goes about it as well.
Mm-hmm.
And whereas you get sort of Roxy and Sam are much more, let's stay in the game, let's talk about the game, let's move on from the game in some cases. Like that's each coach has a different style that,
Mm-hmm.
much like the style of players that we always go on about, you can't really judge until we have at least much more data, right?
Oh, of course, of course.
And speaking of data, have you heard of a perfect accurate game?
Perfect accurate game is, I believe, not getting your maximum points allotted, but it's getting all your questions right.
Yes. Every question that's asked to you, including steals that are asked to you, are answered correctly. And that's what Video Drew does here.
Spoilers for the rest of the match, but like, yeah, like that it's insane. You talk a couple, you watch backstage, and Ben Bateman talks about, yeah, until I did it a couple months ago, no one had ever got
Mm.
a perfect game before. And now people who are known for their character work, like Video Drew, are going out there and throwing perfect, accurate games. Still think we need to come up with another name for that outside of perfect game, but that's for an off season podcast, I think. But hats off to Video,
Yeah.
skulls off for Friday the 13th. I don't know what Video Drew was doing, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah, Video Drew had like a not perfect game only because of one multiple choice. And considering she got a point and a steal, she got as many points as a perfect game would have given her. And
That's very true.
yeah, 9 points in the first round, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Defers to Jen Kemp, who spins Jodie Foster and then Horror, which is Drew's specialty. And like she has to go to multiple choice for most of her questions because you cannot give any potential steals over. And she does drop one multiple choice steal that Drew picks up and gets 4 points in the round.
Mm-hmm.
I I saw her get very upset with herself on the first question because she had clearly seen like Brightburn or whatever it is
Yeah,
and
Brightburn.
could not figure it out, and that really possibly hurt her confidence a little bit, but I think less that and more just made her a little like sad in the moment.
Yeah, it's a really tough, that Brightburn question. That was a tough question, not because the context clues are specifically hard. It's specifically because the actor they're talking about, David Dunn, freaking Roy
Mhm.
from The Office. Who knows that guy's name? Nobody. Nobody knows who played Roy from The Office, and they're given that as the context clue instead of a Elizabeth Banks. It
Yeah.
makes it so challenging, but I'm here for the challenge, as we all know.
Yeah, and obviously you need that one like trip up question in every round. The 5 point serves as that for most times in the round three, but we could look at the a different one in this case. We'll get into that. But first, so let's talk about Video Drew and SNL movies, which I don't really know any SNL movies because I'm like too young for most of them when they came out, or just all of them, the really good ones, come before I was even born. But I've seen so many competitors like either really not like the category and shy away, but the ones who have taken it have done extremely well. It's been
Yeah,
two or three times now.
remind me, did Video Drew spin SNL when she played against Mark Riley as well?
I'm not sure.
I believe
I might have been able to tell you that if you wanted, but it'd be way back in my notes.
no, that's fine. I believe she did. So I think this may be something that she does. Oh no, she got Mel Brooks. That's why. Different comedy. I've hey, I haven't been on the show. I can only memorize these things now.
Also,
But
that makes sense because Video Drew is a horror comedy, so those should be her strengths, right?
they should. But Video Drew is just kills this round, and it was very interesting because on the outset you don't think Video Drew is someone who studies and takes the game seriously on that level. But then you see in the chat room, not in the chat room, what is this, 1998? In the live chat, Lon's in the chat talking about we went over this literally yesterday. She should know this. And I was like, wow, Video Drew takes this very seriously. I think that's been evident in the level of play she's been putting up recently because she did. And the reason I think I got confused about the Mel Brooks category was she also did extremely well in that. So I think Video Drew has only been getting better and better. And this round, from talking about Blues Brothers and another
I've heard that's Adam Witt's favorite movie, Blues Brothers 2000.
I've also heard that. Now, Dan, I have a very important question, though, to ask you that was very relevant to round two.
Yeah.
And so Video Drew, throughout most of round two, having a blue lollipop. She's enjoying a nice blue lollipop while she's answering her questions. Who did it best? Video Drew or Mike Kalinowski? Whose lollipop game is stronger?
Okay. Now look. I appreciate you're putting me in a tough position here, Dave. I should be saying corruption because that is the default answer. But I do think Video Drew does it a little bit better because she was very taunting with it. Like she had a proper like mean look on her face, and yeah, because she actually does it when Jen Kemp starts. It's for the whole of round two, and it's pretty intimidating, honestly.
It really was, and I was intimidated.
And if you want to get into round three, I have quite a bit here.
All right, lay it on me, Dan.
Yeah. Obviously, we're talking a 6 point like differential, and that's hard to climb, but absolutely not out of the realm of possibility. Jen gets Dance, 2007 dance musical. Zac Efron, Christopher Walken, two other actors. I didn't bother writing all of them. It was Hairspray. Well, she answered it quicker than most of the. She
No,
probably would have
that's
got
fair.
it in a speed round at Christopher Walken. She'd have called out that answer, I think.
Yeah.
Then new releases, which has been the bane of a lot of players this year. Brendan Meyer, a couple others that I can't really think about in this moment, but
Mike
new
Kalinowski.
releases. Yeah, new releases has really sunk some people. A new tech team known as Ammo, a new tech-driven team known as Ammo, in what 2020 action film? I probably should have just guessed Bad Boys because it is so dumb, but I wasn't thinking of Bad Boys as like more James Bond. I was just thinking of them as goofy cops, so I didn't think of that at all.
See, I said Bloodshot,
Mm.
the Vin Diesel movie.
See, that's a good answer.
But we all should have assumed that it was Bad Boys for Life, given what day it was.
Yeah, because they couldn't ask a Bad Boys question in the next match because it would have been unfair. They had to throw one
Exactly.
into this one. I see. And yeah, the 5-point question that Jen gets is interesting as well because I like this question because it's very plain. There's one clue, and it's a movie no one wanted to watch, and less people did.
Yeah.
Yeah, who directed X-Men: Dark Phoenix?
Could you imagine the uproar if Mike Kalinowski or like Chance Ellison had been given that question as a 5-pointer? The internet outrage. I think it's a totally justifiable new releases 5-pointer because, as you said, who the fuck saw Dark Phoenix? I did. But besides the point, she gets it. And also, Simon Kinberg is more known for being a writer. That was his
Yeah.
directorial debut. So I think it's a fair question. I think it's very interesting, and you can see Jen Kemp's like, I don't want to fuck up this name. I know it 100%.
Yeah. See, as you said, like it would be quite an uproar if one of the IG competitors got this question, but also, yeah, an IG style for this question would make it somewhat like round 2 even,
Yeah.
because like he wrote a number of the X-Men movies, so and they do have a lot of those movies directed by the same guy, and only a couple of them that are not. So an IG competitor would need to know that many things about the X-Men franchise already, just as a general rule. And yeah, it would be upsetting for some people, but it would be fair because, again, it's X-Men Dark Phoenix. You might as well have asked, like, who directed Origins.
Gavin O'Connor.
Seriously, who cares? It sucked.
No, that's
Yeah,
fair.
Video Drew doesn't get the TKO, but she answers her musical question. Who plays Mama Morton, the matron of Cook County Jail in Chicago? That's Queen Latifah. And she wins. I was very excited for her to actually win this match. I didn't notice at first that it was like I noticed it was a game when Video Drew noticed it. That was very fun for me, and I hope he like continues to improve and like really shows that hard work pays off, and
Yeah.
kind of does prove what I've said a lot. And I love to use Ben Bateman as an example, and as a
Mhm.
result, we might never get him on our show, but he was not a good player until he went 5-0 and won a title.
No, no.
He turned it around through hard work and study and actually did it. And it's the perfect
No,
model for anyone who would want to get better.
no, you're 100%. You're 100% right. Now, I think before we move on from the undercard and onto the sad event, a relevant question that we can just talk about briefly. Do you think with this win, do you think Video Drew will be one of the players that Kaiser tries to sign next year?
See, it's difficult because he does have a lot of things to think about next season.
Yeah.
He he does need to rebuild his faction in some way, and his toughest decisions will be who to not pursue. Because I can see a lot of his players being potentially available to him when he wants to take them in the draft, let's say.
Yeah.
But he will, and as a very personable manager that he is, it will be so difficult for him to make those decisions on who he needs to step away from in order to add something to his team for next season.
Yeah.
But considering some real life circumstances have gotten in the way, uh, you could see Video Drew being one of those three retained players. Um, it's gonna probably look like Robert Parker, and um, either you keep the Misfits together or you keep one of them and Drew and hope to pick up the other one in the draft.
Yeah, and I think that's totally a available thing
Mm.
that you can
And
do.
yeah, I think it's easier to pick up Adam Witt or Eric Zipper in the draft. No offense to either of the guys, they're great players. But Video Drew is such a hot commodity and like a personality that she will be higher on people's lists.
Oh, for sure, for sure. Like, yeah, so much so that like I forgot that Kaiser had to trade to even get Video Drew
Hmm.
to begin with.
Yeah.
Um, but this is exciting, and I can't wait to see what Video Drew. And actually, I can't wait to see what Jen Kemp does next year because I really think that she is going to come back with a vengeance
Mm.
next year. No matter what faction she ends up on, if she's still with the suspects, if she's with someone else, I'd love to see her in teams, and I'd love to see her have a couple more matches and really work on just developing the skills that she needs because I think she
Yeah,
has the knowledge.
absolutely. And yeah, if anybody needs proof of that, just go search her name up on YouTube with movie trivia, and you will find plenty of
Mm-hmm.
evidence. Um, we get to, if you want to move on, we get to the main event,
No.
the Wildberries Civil War and retirement match. And I think I've realized now why Lou put us on the show together, because our combined our favorite and least favorite moment of the movie trivia Schmoedown is the same moment.
We
the
will never forgive Shannon Barney for what she did to us.
uh, we shall just bask in her glory instead.
No, I I obviously, I've been very vocal on this show about how much I love the Wildberries. The Wildberries, I came into the movie trivia Schmoedown with Elliot when he was on Team Machinima back in season
Mm,
2. So I had a lot of allegiances, and then I always loved Josh. And then when they teamed up and the Wildberries, I was one of those people. There were people after their second loss being like, I don't know, like they're fun, but like, why are we keeping them together? And I was like, they can go 0-50. These two never break up.
Yeah, I was a little upset with the Wildberries for most of my like Schmoedown watching experience. I I believe Josh McCouga both flossed a belt and got nominated Face of the Year. And I was just like, how is this possible? it's it's so upsetting
Because
how
The
everyone
Wildberries
loves these children.
the Wildberries live on a different level of existence than everyone else. What he was doing was he was just accentuating the belt's glory by exposing it to Wildberries.
I'm pretty sure that's why they changed the belt, because Dan refused to wear it afterwards.
Too awesome. Too awesome. Too much wildness. But no, this was really a when this match was announced, I was very sad. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe storyline will happen and the Wildberries will reunite and it'll be great. Because I think earlier on in this year, when we were first talking about the draft, I said, what's going to happen? There's going to be a Wildberry Civil War. Last question. Nobody's going to answer it. They're just going to look at each other and say, let's go, brother. And the Wildberries are going to walk out united as one Wildberry. And that didn't happen. That didn't happen for me today, Dan. And I'm very sad.
Yeah, yeah. It was very disappointing, and you know, maybe in a perfect world they could have reunited, but in a much better and brighter world for corruption, this match does not go in Josh's favor.
Now, like, let's just talk about this match, because I know we're gonna go blow by blow and really get into it.
Yeah.
But before we do, like, the movie trivia Schmoedown has always been like this mix, obviously, of entertainment and knowledge, and the Wildberries exemplify entertainment. And season 7 obviously has had a lot of issues in moving on to the online format. Not like issues like the quality's any less. It's just it's tougher to do storylines and have character-driven matches when the people aren't in the same room. But the Wildberries showed, like, the final score of this entire match is under 20 combined, is under 25 points. And that's insane. But it doesn't matter. This is still one of my favorite matches of the year, if not the saddest match of the year, because I was going to push for Wildberries for Yodi, and that doesn't look like it's going to happen.
And I agree with you completely, and I do think that what was I going to say?
Wildberries.
No, I was not going to say wildberries. Squash berries.
Get off my stream.
Well,
this is a sad moment.
No,
this is
I'm
a
the
sad
host.
moment.
You can't kick me out. You let me host.
This is a sad moment.
I offered to let you open the show, and you were like, "Oh, I haven't been here for a month." No, you can't kick me out. But no, what I was going to say is that the points didn't matter. It's really, this match was the story, and the way this story was set up is like the two stories they have managed to get out of the digital age. The Wildberries works perfectly. That, like, the entire world shuts down and you can't get in touch with Elliot Dewberry, so you and somehow Shannon is stopping that, maybe. And on the second front, you have, like, Andrew Guy and the Schmoeminati, who very well could have started this whole thing in order to have more exclusive time to brainwash Andrew Guy, possibly. Because, like, he was a very hard man to track down until they got him locked up in a house all day, every day, right?
That's true.
And yeah, it's just like there are a couple of like unique stories that we can get out of this age that nobody can be near each other.
Hmm.
And it's just yeah, like there could be more things to come, and once everybody does get back into a room together, we will have even more storylines because those are reunion storylines and the first time you've seen each other since such and such has happened. And we're gonna get a lot of flashback scenes to digital ages where like competitors who have never met but have faced each other 2 or 3 times,
Yeah.
like Jeff Snyder and Adam Collins, possibly.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
let's not move focus away from who's really important here. This was about a battle for the Wildberries soul. The soul of the
Yes.
berries.
In fact, I'd call it a true battle between good and evil. And sadly, this is Infinity War and not Endgame.
No, that's so true. And I'm sitting back, I'm watching this, and I gotta say, this match went down exactly the way I expected it to. Um, there were moments where I was caught off guard,
Mm,
but the end result was the same. I think we all probably thought Elliot's probably gonna win, and but like the banter back and forth in between questions, or just the fact
mm.
that Makuga needs an audience. So, and the fact that he doesn't play in he hasn't played in the digital era. So he's like, "What are we doing? What are we doing? I gotta do this. What are we talking about?"
Yeah, and I mean he'd be doing that anyway.
Exactly.
It's Josh McCouga.
Exactly. And you can watch the entire every time Josh was starting to talk about something or talking about the movie as he was answering the question. I was looking at Elliot and he kept looking to his left and like get his eyes were getting real big because it's like, I'm not allowed to laugh. I'm not allowed to laugh at Josh right now.
Yeah, and I do agree that like Dewberry might have been like the favorite in the match, and uh, potentially like um, potentially Josh could have made it a very tight one because
Mm-hmm.
he did know his 3 point question, and he also spun a horrible round two, like two of
Yeah.
the worst categories, one after the other, because he jinxes himself.
I love that too. Him talking about no whammies. That he's like, watch
Yeah,
this whammy. Watch this whammy.
and he's like, "Oh, it's gonna land on opponent's choice," and he gets mixed bag and then inner geekdom. It might as well have been opponent's choice.
Very true. Truly.
Uh,
I didn't see horror on the wheel, which I thought was interesting. I would have loved to see how Josh did having landed on that. But man, and this match really showed just how good Elliot and Josh are at performing because the scores are what they are. They both no one did like really poorly. No one did great.
yeah.
But no one did get out of here. This is season 7, kid. Um and but none of that mattered. I don't think usually when we're watching this match I'm like, okay, there's 3 points here. Okay, so they're down right now. So if Josh gets this many blah in round 2, then this is where we'll be. I wasn't thinking about that at all.
Mhm.
I was interested when certain calls were made,
Mhm.
like Elliot going with 90s,
That
but
was interesting, and I really liked his play in that slice. Which, speaking of, I was just looking at my notes and noticing that Makuga talks himself out of a steal in Elliot's round, and
Yes.
he moves a little fast on the Sin City question, but I do believe Josh would do that anyway. I am looking at a lot of these things and wondering if he had played a few other matches, even not necessarily in the virtual age, but any other matches this year. It might have been Dewberry retiring because Makuga does that.
I don't think so. I think these are mistakes he would have made regardless, because talking himself out of the ghost steal is, I think, something Josh would have done anyway in a singles match. I think if they're on a team and are talking about it, I think then it's like, oh yeah, it's obviously Ghost. Whoopi Goldberg. We love her in that movie.
Actually, if they had been in a teams match in this match, they'd have a lot of points.
Yeah.
This would be a record-breaking Wildberries match.
Well, no, late to the party match where Elliot got a Dewberry.
Well, I mean, this is 7-6, 13 in round one for the Wildberries is very strong.
That's very strong.
Then you move on. If we'll just take Josh answers 2 questions. Elliot answers 3 questions. That's 5 out of the 6. Let's say 7 points. That's 20 points in 2 rounds.
Yeah.
They did very well in both of these categories.
No, the Wildberries, the problem is the Wildberries have never been they were never a team about getting belts. They played the goddamn founding fathers in their fourth match when they had a losing record. This isn't a team that was ever going for belts, but they're always a team that has played well. And going back to Josh talking himself out of that, I think regardless, he says Sin City. And I think regardless, he doesn't say Ghost. I think those are just commonplace mistakes. I actually think, based on Elliot's face, that if he had been given that same question, he would have said Sin City and only said a dame to kill for after Josh was wrong.
But then if they were together, one of them might have said Sin City, the other one might have said, what if it's a dame to kill for? And then you spend the next 10 seconds talking about it. That's
Have you ever seen a Wildberries match, Dan?
I have.
It's a lot of is it this? I think so. They're getting up, they're walking around, they're not using that time to the best of their ability. Come on, let's be real. And I love the Wildberries. Wildberries #1 fan here. But I really love his reasoning for the Jerry Maguire question in the 3rd round. And he's got no idea what it is, but he just thinks the classic filmmaking trope. It's just I just hope someone was making an homage. And so I'll name the closest thing I can think of. And that's a very solid guess. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen Jerry Maguire, and I didn't remember Goldfish.
I've also seen it, and I didn't even remember the movie much. I was oh man, I remember The Office, I guess.
I love that we are talking about. I love the dichotomy in this episode, by the way, Dan. First, the undercard is very straightforward. We're talking about it by the numbers, but we're just having a wild and crazy time when it comes to the Wildberries, and I'm all about it.
Oh yeah, I mean, everybody knows how this match went down. Everybody is has this whole match seared into their memory.
In mourning is what you meant to say. We're all in mourning.
Yes. Yeah. Sure.
But also, like, just talking about Josh throughout, I forget what question it was, but when Josh asks, who writes these? Is it still Skaliski? And then it's
Uh,
like, no, it's PJ Campbell. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I like that guy. It was a good question.
yeah,
I
he was pretty upset with some of his questions.
I think that might have been the Dame to Kill for question.
It was that one or the Thor one.
No, it definitely, yeah, it was the
The
Dame to Kill for question. But the man, also, Josh McCouga spinning freaking Inner Geekdom.
mm,
Is there anything worse that, like, horror? But we have seen the Inner Geekdom slice come up a couple of times.
mhm.
I think this is the third time it's come up, and it is deadly. Like in Adam Collins' first match against Andres Gallegos, like that category sunk the Ghost. In Zip versus Ethan, even Irwin is struggling with Inner Geekdom, and now you're throwing Josh McCouga.
I mean, it's it's their own fault, I will say, because how many complaints were there about the Inner Geekdom slices themselves being put in, and Mike is running through DC, and you gotta make the questions on a level that are both attainable to the general public, but could be tricky to a fully IG player. And the the league's competitors brought that on themselves by creating this, by making that category what it
Yeah,
is.
I agree, and I'm excited for next year when all the categories are back. But it's like, look who's
Mm.
suffering. Makuga is
And
suffering
yes,
now.
I won't blame Josh McCouga for it. He was not there for this, but it
Don't blame the
is
Wild Man.
no, he you can blame Josh McCouga for quite a lot of things, but this was
Nothing.
not one of them.
We
And
can't blame him for anything.
he
Can't
did
blame him for
suffer
anything.
for it.
We can't blame him for anything. I don't know what my co-host is saying. He's clearly gone. He's lost it. But
Yeah.
so you asked me, did you have like a rooting interest in this match outside of, well, I don't even know why I'm asking this. Obviously, you're the corruption shill, so I will actually take it a different way. What do you think of brainwashed Elliot Dewberry?
Well, I mean, I don't think that Elliot is fully brainwashed. I will admit that there does seem to be some tampering that was going on, but from Elliot's perspective, he has made the decision that worked for him. I don't think it's brainwashing so much as just the information is not all being given to him.
Chose
Whereas
or forced?
because Andrew Guy was clearly brainwashed. We know what full brainwashing looks like. When he went from seeing everything to happy-go-lucky manager guy, that's a bit of a pun. He needed that is pure brainwashing. Whereas if you just don't let someone see correspondence and they come up with a new decision on their own, that is a decision based off flawed information, but it is not, it's deception, but it's not brainwashing.
All right, I can get down with that. Like, we've been talking now about, obviously, the Wildberries. The end of the match really broke my heart because Josh McCouga, he gets TKO'd. It's very sad. We're all very sad. Everyone's very sad, especially me. And then afterwards, we're talking to Josh, and Josh is like, I put in with the league that if I won, the Wildberries would be reunited. Elliot wouldn't retire. and we would become essentially the thing I had been pitching.
Yeah. And I did think I I was assuming that was going to happen. Had he won the match, he would propose that to whoever was there and try to make sure that he could attempt to save his friend.
Yeah, and I'm very like, so obviously that was upsetting for me, but I live in a world now where, for the immediate future, the Wildberries are gone. They're not coming back, and they're gone. Like, it's very sad for me. It's a very sad moment. I'll always remember the Wildberries from doing keg stands with the king, or doing beer bongs with the Kingsmen, to flossing the belts. I know you don't like it, but it's a memorable moment.
I liked when they were mild for one round.
It was for 2 rounds. They didn't go wild until the 3rd round.
They started. As soon as the buzz hit, it was like 2 questions into round 2, but you would see them get antsy.
But then, like, even like, and now I'm just rattling off my favorite Wildberries moments. Wildberries versus freaking, oh my God, why can't I think of them now? Only Stupid Answers, where where the answer, what animal kills Mufasa, or the question, what animal kills Mufasa, and Elliot writes a wild beast, and they draws a wildebeest, and the announcers on the desk, it was Mark and someone else, are like, yeah, it's the Wildberries, we can give that to you. And just like, I'll always remember those moments. But I won't say excited, because I refuse to get excited about anything that exists in a post Wildberries world. But I'm very interested to see where Elliot Dewberry goes, or what he does next year, because corruption has such a abundance of riches that he's not getting signed. But he's also, I don't think, getting picked up by anyone in the draft. He will be there if Shannon wants him.
Yeah, I mean, it really depends. You could have an ace up your sleeve, and I'm not talking an actual ace like Cabrera, but just like if you know who the right teammate for Elliot Dewberry is, and it would be some insider stuff of trying to go and find out who he wants to play with.
See, I actually think it already exists. I think Hoik is already a fantastic deception. The Experiment played okay in their first match, but I think if with some fine tuning, and when he says, "Oh, I'm taking it seriously now," Elliot Dewberry has never taken the movie trivia Schmoedown seriously. I'm a big fan of his. Came into the league, but he does not take it seriously. He has fun, but I think you put him with a really knowledgeable player. He has the clout to get you matches, and he has just enough skill to get you points. I don't think any team he's a part of will ever challenge for a belt. I even though he dragged Ricky to a #1 contenders match back in the day.
It was a different era, and I do see, like, it would require, like, again, it would require effort and study that we don't know if Dewberry wants to do, if that's a thing that he's interested in. But it is very clear that Elliot Dewberry knows a ton about movies, and he did drag Ricky to a #1 contendership, right?
Yeah.
So you never know. Like, we've seen a lot of people that we didn't think were the best players be some of the best complementary teams players. Video Drew is actually, like, one of those cases of has until earlier like never really excelled in singles, but you put her in a team, and I honestly don't really care who the other person is unless it happens to be someone whose strengths line up too much with theirs.
Yeah.
They could get it done.
I agree with that. And again, that's what is interesting about where Ellie is going to end up next year. And I think he'll get a match pretty early on next season, because I think you want to capitalize on this villainy while you still can. And
He's gonna have a match next year. Finish what you were saying. I'm gonna propose it.
He's going to have a match next year. I think you want to capitalize on that. And if he can get a couple wins together, maybe this is the Elliot Dewberry we see for season 8. And season 9 is Josh McCouga coming out of retirement to save his old friend.
So what I want to do is give Elliot Dewberry, the newly evil Elliot Dewberry, the winner of Kevin Smith versus Brett Sheridan, because everyone loves all of those people. Just start lining them up against the like most lovable characters in the league.
I would love, oh my god, Kevin Smith versus freaking Elliot Dewberry. I would love that so much.
Yeah. Him or Zaflaus.
Oh, Zaflaus.
Yeah. Whoever wins that match will have to face Elliot Dewberry.
I am oh my god. Oh, Dan, I said I wasn't going to be excited about anything in a post-Wildberries world. What are you doing to me, man?
Yes.
Come on.
Because the future is always brighter when it's a little more evil. I mean, more explosions are going off. It's just a given.
It's true. Now, Dan, as we wind down, this is something that like we had talked about. This was another 3 points for corruption. They have a 10-point lead now. At the time of recording this, we haven't seen deception play, so we don't know if it's more or less. But how big is this win for corruption?
It's really big for corruption, because a couple of weeks ago I was kind of putting some numbers together looking at that like teams tournament. At the time, corruption was leading by 11 points, and there have been there's a bit of a lopside with how many matches Swag and Corruption have played so far since that point. But they have a 10-point lead now. And I was saying then, if Final Exam can't win more than Deception, or if Makuga can't close that gap to inside 10 points, Corruption has the capability of winning the faction race before Spectacular starts. Because if from this point on, if Deception and Final Exam only scored the same amount of points, then the only way it is possible is for Founding Fathers to go in and take out a bunch of people and gain, like, Dan has to win the singles, and Founding Fathers have to win the team's belts, and Deception has to be knocked out very early for it to make a difference. Going into Spectacular, Corruption can max out at 68 points or 71 points, given some knockout potentials. Finstock Exchange maxes out at 56, 59, and Swag maxes out at 59/62. Swag getting 59 points and Corruption getting 68 is both impossible. So you're looking at so many contingencies that the only way to do it is kind of maybe if Swag got in there and they win all 3 belts at Spectacular, they would need all 15 points.
Well, they're already challenging for 2, so that's a good start.
Mm. And yeah, like you place all of your eggs in the final exam basket.
Mm-hmm.
I think well, it would be 65 and Finstock at 56. Ooh, yeah. Dan would have to win, and Founding Fathers would have to win the whole thing, plus the team's belt again. And I don't envy any team having to face Shazam. I think Shazam will be better at retaining the belts than they were at attaining them, to be honest.
Yeah. As we wrap up, like I just want to say, how crazy is it in February, or sorry, in March, everyone's talking about Shan Barney. What a terrible manager. And now, like, we're having to do high level calculus to figure out how her faction can lose the faction race.
Mm-hmm.
This is why we play the game.
And honestly, yeah, and it has made me feel very vindicated throughout the season, especially because like I chose corruption as my faction over like Swag was kind of the second place when I was picking them. I was looking at I wanted to pick like a rookie manager specifically, and then I wasn't thrilled with the draft from the usual suspects or very much for the Den. So it came down to between Swag and corruption. And it was the Wildberries moment that pushed me over to pick the Queen. And then it was very fun to just watch them go from the last place to the first one, and then yes, make it almost a certainty that they will walk away winners.
Mm-hmm.
In some regard, at least.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and you know what? We got to be talking about Shannon from heel of the year easily, because not only did she break up the Wildberries, now she's retired Josh McCouga.
She infiltrated the entire Inner Geekdom tournament and made it the Corruption Invitational.
Yeah.
And yeah, she has been an incredibly good manager, and heel of the year could be a toss up because there are some very big contenders, but I really see unless some crazy uncertain things happen, she has manager of the year locked up.
I think it's really it's a 2-horse race right now between her and
Yes.
Winston.
And I would, if you're put in that third spot, I actually give it to Koi over Gucci. I have
agree.
for a little while now, but I don't think he has done so much, but not quite enough.
No, agreed. Like if somehow Witching Power was able to come out of this entire team's tournament, I think then maybe we're talking about Koi in a more serious manner. But I don't think either one of us sees that happening.
Yeah. And if I could say one last thing, I would about like the matches here, like just so much love to Video Drew. That was a fantastic match. Gen Kunt as well, but for Video Drew to get a really solid win, that's really what makes a player too. When you get that real win, you played well, your opponent played well, you beat them. That's a confidence stepping stone that I really hope is going to be great for her. And for the second match, with the retirement of Josh McCouga and the reign of corruption continuing, I can say one thing, and that is that the league has become, on average, a little quieter.
That's very true. I'm not happy about it, but it's true.
Well, I can listen to the show with my headphones on now, so
Well, I think that's a great place to wrap it up. Uh, Dan, where can the people find you online?
you can find me at our Facebook page, Schmoes of the North, a Schmoedown fan page, and you can find me on Twitter at my handle down here at Avengers_SOTN. And a couple of things we should mention, if you haven't already, you need to go check out on the Smashathon YouTube channel. I hope Dave can throw a description or a link to that in the description. And yeah, go check out the Smashathon. And we did a segment at about, I think it's hour 15-ish. It was the 7 a.m. Pacific slot, but it's in the second stream. And we did a fun expansion draft mock, and also just our thoughts always go out to Kevin, and we hope that he had as much fun as the rest of us did. And last, I wanted to mention. I can't remember. Do you want to go?
Yeah, for me, you can find me at Lee's Me Alone on Twitter, but more importantly, you can find me back here on Schmoes of the North. We just crossed 100 subscribers. Thank you to everyone who subscribed. And you know what? If you go watch that special Smash-a-thon and find our part, you'll see a very that we crossed that 100 milestone on stream, and there was an announcement. Go check it out over there. Then leave a comment below about how excited you are about the announcement.
Mm-hmm. As always, smash cancer.
Smash cancer, and good night.